Hello, everyone. Welcome to another live webinar with Family Source Consultants. Today, we are discussing genetic testing, everything you need to know about genetic testing of embryos. And today, I'm joined with Dr. Santiago Munne from Progenesis. Thank you so much for joining me today.
Thank you very much. It's a pleasure to
All
be
right.
here.
Well, let's start. I always love hearing about the people that we get to speak with. So let's talk about you. What is your role as the scientific director, and what do you do with Progenesis? Tell us, our listeners, about everything that you want them to know.
Well, Progenesis is a laboratory that specializes in testing embryos. We have laboratories in the US, in South America, in India, in Turkey. So it's a worldwide network of laboratories. And we do any type of testing of embryos and for different purposes. So there are basically four different purposes for which we test the embryos. One is called PGTA, which is pre-implantation genetic diagnosis of aneuploidy. Aneuploidy is when the eggs have an extra or missing chromosome, and that will create basically either that the embryo is not going to implant, or it will miscarry, or in a few cases it may produce a baby that is affected for Down syndrome or a few other syndromes. Obviously, this is the major indication for doing the test, because with advancing maternal age, there is a concomitant increase in the number of abnormalities in the eggs. And that produces basically that the eggs don't implant or miscarry. And that's why with advancing maternal age, you have a decrease in fertility. By testing the embryos and selecting the ones that are normal, then a normal embryo implants equally well at any age, almost up to 43, 44. Then there is still a slight decline for other factors. But this is the bulk of the test right now. Then we have PGT-M, which is when we test the couple before they go to IVF to see if they have any genetic abnormality. If they have the same one, then we will select the embryos for that specific abnormality, in addition of doing the test for aneuploidy. Another super specialty, let's say, is for structural abnormalities. These are not whole chromosomes that are lost or gained, but the couple, basically, one of them has a chromosome that has missed a piece, and it's been reattached to another chromosome. So they exchange basically pieces of the chromosome. The individual is normal, but when the chromosomes segregate in the gametes, then you have either a gain or a loss of some pieces of that chromosome. It's called translocations. Yeah. And also we can select for that. And lately, our latest test, which is basically the ultimate test, is we sequence every single letter of the embryo, and basically we can detect anything that is abnormal. And this includes abnormalities that we call de novo mutations. De novo mutations, basically they accumulate in the sperm and on the eggs, especially on the sperm with advancing paternal age. So also the guys will have a biological clock. Yes. And they accumulate in the sperm, and we cannot detect them in blood. So when we do a carrier screening to see if the parents have any genetic abnormality that can transmit to the babies, we wouldn't be able to detect it. So with this test, we can detect any inherited mutations plus de novo mutations. So this is, we call it the definite test for embryos.
Yeah. So, I mean, you gave us so much information right off the bat, and I'm ecstatic to kind of dive in, because I think there's so much about genetic testing that's unknown. Mm-hmm. So, I mean, you told us that you have all these services available and you have all these tests available. Who are these services for? Is this for only females who want to test their eggs? Is this only for egg donors? Who does Progenesis really help?
Mm-hmm. So specifically for egg donors, we have found, there is a lot of reports in the literature about if this is useful for egg donors.
Mm-hmm.
There are some reports that said that PGT-A does not improve results for egg donors. But then when you look at the database of, it's called SART, it's a database that every IVF center in the US has to put data in it. And if you look at that, also in younger patients, which are egg donors, you see an improvement in results with PGT-A. This is one thing. Yeah, it could improve results. But second, and most importantly, is that an egg donor cycle is very expensive. So you want to prevent, although there is less risk of miscarriages and abnormal offspring, there is a risk. For instance, 30% of eggs from young patients and egg donors are still abnormal. So it's not a small risk. So you would prevent still spontaneous abortions and basically, and also the results can improve. For patients that go through egg donation and also gestational carriers, which is a big segment of this population that needs egg donation, then there is the added risk that if there was an abnormal conception, you cannot force the surrogate to terminate that pregnancy. So that's why almost every egg donation with surrogacy is done with PGT-A.
Yeah. And so really, oh, go ahead.
Sorry.
It's okay.
I was going to say also, there is a lot of women also of advanced maternal age that have done PGT and everything was abnormal. Then they go to egg donation. They know already about PGT-A and they want to make sure that that they know. I mean, and now since we're doing a biopsy, why not, now that we can, to select for everything, right? To make sure that everything is normal, especially in cycles that are so expensive. Right?
Yeah. Well, I think the main point that's so great about genetic testing and this ability that we have is just reducing the variables, right? There's a lot that goes into infertility. There's a lot that goes into egg donation and surrogacy. And the whole point of what we're trying to accomplish is to have a happy, healthy baby at the end. And so with these genetic tests that Progenesis is able to offer, you're really reducing those variables. You're taking out and really taking more control over the success of your own journey in testing for those abnormalities and being able to really put the best embryo forward, your best foot forward, right? And really increase the chances for a happy, healthy, normal pregnancy.
Exactly. Mm-hmm.
Perfect. So I'm going to touch a little bit more on each of the kind of tests you said, because I know I've only been in the industry, for a while as a previous surrogate and now with Family Source Consultants. But even everything that you said just fascinates me. So the PGT-A, that was where you started. Mm-hmm. That is the test for the abnormalities in the eggs, correct?
Yes. Mm-hmm.
So we want to think of that as like the most basic test.
Yeah, that's the basic.
That's where you start. Yeah. If you're going to do any test, you should start with the PGT-A.
Yeah, usually that's done with all the tests. So we could do only that one, or if the couple knows that have a genetic abnormality in the family, then we can do the PGT-A plus the abnormality or the translocation, or we can do the whole thing, every letter of the genome.
Every letter. So you're saying that even if a couple did not opt for some of the tests that we're going to touch on in just a minute, I'm going to go through all of them. But even if they didn't, if they just wanted to do the PGT-A testing plus a specific abnormality test, they could kind of even pinpoint which genetic test they want to or abnormality they want to search for.
Yeah. So for instance, Usually, when you go to IVF, they will offer you what's called carrier screening. It's a panel of 300 to 500 genes. Um, these are the most common ones: cystic fibrosis, thalassemias, fragile eggs, all those. And if you are a carrier of one of them, then we'll do what's called PGTM in addition of PGTA to screen for that mutation. However, there are 10,000 genes. There are 7,000 diseases that have a genetic origin that have been described, probably more. And so this test, this preliminary test, carrier screening, it's just very thin, let's say, skinning of the game. Is still there could be many other things. So in addition, instead of doing these tests, you could do either a whole exome. So they basically screen for all your genome of both parents, which also we will need to do that in order to do to analyze the whole embryo. So we'll do that. So both parents will be screened completely. Here, there are some people that they don't want to know what they have in their genes. They only want to know if there is something bad in the embryo, and we can do that, or you can have also that information for your own use. But basically, with that information, then we'll know if there is any inherited potential mutations. And then by analyzing the whole embryo, we'll know if there are de novo mutations.
That's amazing. So really it's, in an essence, I mean, when someone reaches out to Progenesis, they can kind of customize whatever tests they need for their specific situation.
Yes.
And is that something that they would be able to discover in their initial consultation with you, and you kind of walk them through?
Yes. Our genetic counselors will basically counsel them on what is best for their situation.
Good. I'm glad you said that, because we only have about 40 minutes today, and I don't think we'd be able to touch on every situation that might happen for people. So I love that we have the resource of Progenesis to kind of reach out and understand exactly what they may need genetically to increase their chances for a successful pregnancy. Let's move on. Now, we touched on PGTA, and I know you had mentioned PGTM. So that would just be a specific search, or give me a little more information about PGTM.
Yeah. So PGTM basically is when, as I said, when the couple, it's known that both of them are carriers of the same mutation. So usually most mutations are what's called recessive, meaning we have two chromosomes, one of them is mutated, but the other copy works, and that's enough. With that, you are normal, you're physically normal. What could happen is if both of you are recessive for that mutated gene, and then both mutated genes goes to the embryo, then the embryo will be affected. And you'll have a 25% chance of that embryo being affected. So what we do is in this case, just select for that specific gene and those specific mutations. And if it's normal, then we can transfer that embryo. If not, we don't.
I could see where that would be incredibly helpful.
Go ahead. This could be combined or not, but usually now we combine it with PGTA. So in addition, you'll check that all the other chromosomes are normal.
Exactly. So just another check. And I think that what I was going to say is I think this would be amazing for especially individuals who are using an egg donor and they get that egg donor carrier screening. If there is a recessive gene that is common between the sperm and the egg donor, that doesn't necessarily mean that we can't move forward with that donor. That just means now we would want to add that PGTM test to the embryos and make sure that everything is
let's talk about that, because when people order a genetic test on the egg donor, basically, as I said, they do a panel of genes that it's, let's say it's 300 or so, but still there could be other things. everybody carries mutations. Everybody carries maybe 20, 30, 40, 50 mutations. So there is not a single egg donor that has no mutations. What's important is that you don't have the same ones as the husband, in this case, has the same ones as the egg donor. They will screen for the most common ones, and they basically cannot screen for all of them because we will have. I mean, you cannot report it as having all those mutations because nobody will be a donor or nobody will accept those donors. So basically, what's important is that we do a match between the donor and the male, so that they don't carry the same mutations, because everybody carries mutations.
Everybody has something. You're not going to find a match with a 0 and 0 to make the end all perfect being. All right, so now if we want to take this a step further, Progenesis has the PGT WGS, right? And this, like you said earlier, this is like the end all be all. This is testing as much as possible, correct?
Correct. Yeah, this is the ultimate test. We just launched it this year. And as I said, we sequence the whole genome of the embryo, also of the parents, so we can know if there is hidden inherited mutations that they didn't know. And then we test the embryos. And that also allows us to detect de novo mutations. De novo mutations, as I said, they accumulate with advancing paternal age, especially, but also maternal age. They cause, for instance, a male that is 45 will have 3.5 times more chances of producing an autistic baby than a male that is 25, 27 times more bipolar syndrome, a bunch of diseases increase with advancing paternal age, although it's not very well known. 1 in 500 babies will have some congenital abnormation because of de novo mutations. And as I said, all those are not detectable in the blood of the parents. So if you are doing this effort of paying an egg donor cycle, I think this is further assurance that you'll have a normal baby.
Exactly. And if you are going to have an egg donor and you're going to go through this entire process and you are hoping for the best case scenario, you want to get the testing. Are there any specific types of clients that you would recommend the PGT WGS to, or is that just kind of an overall recommendation to everyone now that it's available?
So we're at the beginning, because as I said, we're offering it right now this year. We just launched it. Definitely, I would recommend it for males that are 40 or 45 and above. Which, I mean, if you go to egg donation and you're, let's say, a woman and a man, probably it's because the woman is of advanced maternal age, so the male is going to be of advanced paternal age. So yeah, I would recommend it for middle-aged guys like me, and also for any PGTM, we recommended it. So if you already have been classified as having a mutation that both of you share, the standard test basically will test only for the inherited mutation. But you could, for instance, you could have an embryo that has inherited one of the mutations from one father, from one parent, and the normal gene from the other. But there could be still a de novo mutation that is not detected by the PGTM test, and then the embryo will be still affected. This is rare, but it happens. So we also recommend that now every PGTM should be whole genome sequence. So this will be the two first groups that we want to target, advanced paternal age and PGTM. And then probably once the test is more volume and the prices can go down, we can offer it for everybody.
Perfect. And you already kind of talked about, the increased risk of abnormalities with paternal age. Do you have any details on kind of the increased chance of successes using the WGS testing?
No, not yet.
Not yet, just because it's so new. Okay. Well, I'm looking forward to everything that this could mean. I mean, I know as we continue to advance in scientific and infertility worlds, we're just going to continue to grow and offer these other tests that are just going to continue to, again, reduce those variables and kind of increase the successes of a happy, healthy pregnancy. Do you have any general advice for intended parents who might be looking at IVF, egg donation, genetic testing?
Mm-hmm. Well, definitely that well, good luck first. It's a journey that it's complicated, but if you can eliminate all these risks, I think it's worthy for what I said. We cannot guarantee, but we can reduce significantly any risk of genetic abnormalities in the baby, and I think increase the success of the procedure.
Awesome. I do have a question from a viewer if you have a moment to answer. Are you ready? Do we have a second? Okay, good. I didn't want to take up too much of your time, but I did have someone ask, typically how long does genetic testing take?
So basically the preparation, it's a couple of weeks. So we do freeze the embryos, and they are biopsied, they send the DNA to us, and then it takes a couple of weeks to prepare it.
Awesome. And then would they meet with a genetic counselor after those results? Is that something Progenesis does?
Yeah.
Before and after? Mm-hmm. Okay, perfect. Well, thank you so much. I think the only other thing I have to ask for today is, how should someone reach out to Progenesis if they need your services?
Yes, through the website, we have there a page for patients.
Perfect. Well, thank you so much for all of your expertise today. I will probably be reaching out to you because I am now incredibly fascinated and I can't wait to learn more about all of these tests. But I appreciate everything that you've had. If anybody is watching and they have more information, please, please, please reach out to Progenesis, ask all the questions. That's what they're there for. This is what they do on a day-to-day basis. And like you said, you are worldwide?
Yes.
Awesome. So if you have any questions, please reach out. If you are more comfortable reaching out to myself or someone at Family Source Consultants, we are also available and we will get you in touch with them so that you can have all the support you need for your medical genetic testing. Thank you so much and have a great day, everyone.
Thank you.